peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to endear to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya that has escalated in the Sahara region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question And our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the Political Command Center across the continent of Africa and in the globe, in America, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, Russia, China, in the Pacific, in Canada. Good morning. Viewers, today's show is a diplomatic show. Diplomatic Leaks is where we go behind the scenes to discover what is going on about wars, conflict, hunger, starvation, climate change, and most of the things, but to mention but a few. It is with much sadness that this morning I issue a statement on behalf of Pan-African Forum and on behalf of Punchline Africa Television that has been there at the forefront discussing African issues. We have dedicated our policies, direction, communication towards Africa and what matters for Africa. Today, as we broadcast these diplomatic leaks, we find ourselves at crossroads with the war that is taking place in one of the stable countries that we had, that has undergone quite a lot of difficulties, challenges previously, from the time of the overthrow and the killing of Emperor Haile Selassie, one of the founding fathers of Pan-Africanism on this continent. Pan-African Forum and the Punchline Africa TV, therefore, want to take a position that the war in Eritrea, a war in Ethiopia, instigated by Eritrea, Somalia, and the government in Tigray and the government in Addis Ababa, instigated by superpowers, United States of America, France, Egypt, Turkey, Russia, and some Gulf states, is not necessary. The war in Ethiopia brings us memories of the war in Yugoslavia. The collapse of Yugoslavia created quite a number of difficulties in Europe, just as the collapse of Ethiopia will create a lot of difficulties in the Horn of Africa, Africa, and the entire continent of Africa plus the globe. Ethiopia plays a key role in headquarters of the African Union, which are based in Addis Ababa. The destabilization of Ethiopia therefore leaves Africa at crossroads as to where and how they will be able to conduct their affairs as far as African Union is concerned. It is therefore important for the people of Africa to understand that wars anywhere on the continent are not a good sign for us as Africans. But who pays for these wars? Who are the proxies of these wars? Is Africa at the moment fighting proxy wars? Across the continent of Africa, there is dotted conflict zones, right from Nigeria, Biafra, Boko Haram, the Fulani killing Igbo, Cameroon killing Amazonians, the French Cameroon killing the English-speaking Cameroon. In Libya, the country is divided, shattered, destroyed by Turkey and France, cutting it into two parts in Tripoli and Benghazi. Who pays for these wars? It's indeed the African continent that is paying the price of the wars that are imposed on us. Across in Mali, an ever-ending war. The Central African Republic, a silent war goes on. Nobody pays attention because the French are digging out the minerals and taking them, polluting the environment in Central African Republic. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, you see ISIS formation. In other parts of Eastern Congo, tension mounts, keeps on mounting. Is Africa not the one paying the prices? Of all these conflicts, we are paying the price. The tension between Uganda and Rwanda, a silent war, cold war of words, is another hot spot. The tension between Burundi and Rwanda is another hot spot that Africa is experiencing. Today, as we sit and talk and enjoy and exchange views, as we sit in our bedrooms, our houses, in our offices as Africans, what is it that we want for this better Africa? As President Museveni sits in Entebbe or Kampala, as President Uhuru Kenyatta sits in Nairobi State House, as President Mama Suluhu sits in Tanzania, as President Mnangagwa sits in Zimbabwe, Harare, as President HK Hiharema sits in Zambia, as President Tshisekedi, the chairman of African Union, sits in Kinshasa, as Buhari sits and sees his own country sinking under pressure of conflict. What do they think? As Assisi sends in troops, huge arms, sophisticated arms, into Ethiopia in support of Tigray. As the Gulf states that have already developed, where we all talk about going to Dubai, going to Doha. As we sit, what does Isaias affect? The only man left with terrorist tendencies on the continent of Africa. As we sit, Mogadishu has not been stable. It might not be stable. We might end up relinquishing power to the Al-Shabaab that work together and eat together with the government of Mogadishu currently. As we sit and talk, South Africa is embroiled in so many internal disputes in ANC. Across the continent of Africa, right from Algeria and Morocco, another hotspot has begun. What do we say as Africans? And this was our wars. Mr. President, the few of you that I know personally, the few of you that I have engaged in, the few of you who have listened, where is the African Union? Where is the readiness of Nyerere? Where is the readiness of Jomo Kenyatta? Where is the readiness of Nkrumah God? Where is the readiness of Beni Bella, Sekou Toure, Amilcar Cabral, Haile Selassie, Gamamero Nasser, Michel The man who died, perished. Samora Machel. Patrice Lumumba. Where is the strength? Robert Mugabe. Where did it go? Where can we rise up and stand and say enough is enough? Where can Africa draw the line? Where can we get that strength of strong men? Dr. Milton Obote, Dr. K.K. Kaunda, the late. They have all gone. Who is standing in their feet? Who has stood in their feet on the continent of Africa? Who is speaking for the continent of Africa? Our African Union is mortgaged, is sold, is gone. It has been rented to France. The French have taken our African Union. We've left with nothing, a shell of a headquarters. You can't pass anything. You can't call a summit. You can't stop conflicts. You contradict yourselves on every issue that flows in Africa. I have got this speech from my bottom of my heart, in my heart. I've seen the vision of Africa being eroded, going down every day, every minute. Are there people who can save Africa? Can we salvage Africa from the shackles of proxy wars? The Ethiopian war, therefore, the South Sudan war, Salva Kiir, Riek Machar, have been put in a catch-22 with the peace agreement stalled because there is no movement, there is no money to implement the agreement. Are we makers of our own problems? Fellow Africans, I might not be here today, tomorrow, or the other day to see the fruits of my fight. But the fruits of my fight is the voice I will leave back and behind for the people of Africa. The younger generation of Africa here, those who yearn to see constructively engage, constructive criticism of their systems like I've done. If we keep quiet, we shall submit to recolonization. If we speak out, we shall come to table for dialogue. If we don't dialogue, then we shall perish. If we are not united, we shall sink. If we sink, Africa sinks. Is it time for us to stop the war in Ethiopia? That marks my remarks. And I call upon the heads of state of African nations to call for an urgent summit outside Addis Ababa, outside the conflict zone, most likely in Nairobi, so that we can speak out our minds about the war. Whose war is it? Who has brought it to us? Why do they want us to fight? Are they taking something? One, we are seeing. Libya is a good example. It was a continent. It was the supply of goods, supply of money, infrastructure. There is nowhere on the continent of Africa that you can walk and fail to see Gaddafi. Gaddafi is gone, but Gaddafi's legacy lives on. The Libya that he created, the water pipes that he created from Mediterranean Sea have been destroyed by Turkey and France, by the bombs of NATO. Where do we go as Africans? A Libya that once gave us medicine has become a beggar state on the continent of Africa. Are we not proper Don't we have brains to see that there are more Libya type of countries coming on the continent of Africa unless we change our mindset and start thinking as real Pan-Africans with African vision of our founding fathers. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is my speech statement on behalf of Pan-African Forum and the Punchline Africa Television. We have been in the forefront of highlighting the conflicts across the continent of Africa. Thank you. Back to you in the headquarters in Nairobi. Thank you very much, Miriam.
Very well. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that. Now, before we get into the conversation and some of the things that you brought up there that are quite vital to what is happening in Ethiopia today, the latest from Ethiopia, the Federal Armed Forces have appealed to retired soldiers and veterans to rejoin the military if they can. And also the federal government led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has asked residents of Addis Ababa to join the war with whatever weapons they have. This is because the rebels are nearing Addis Ababa, and that has caused a panic in Addis Ababa itself. And as we speak, we know that TPLF now is being supported by the Oromo Liberation Army, and they come from the Oromia region. And on Friday, the TPLF and OLA signed an alliance with 7 other rebel groups there in Ethiopia. So as we look at what has been unfolding there in Ethiopia, what could be Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's choices right now?
Thank you very much, Miriam. I can't add anything more than that. Look, the Prime Minister is calling more people to come to fight, but he's not calling on a ceasefire. This is his own country. Call for a ceasefire and sit down to talk about Ethiopia. But if you call reservists to return, you are preparing for a war. And therefore, other rebel groups will begin going in and also signing pacts with TPLF, which is a formidable force, I've told you already in my speech, that is supported by the mighty Egyptian army. The conflict of Egypt and Ethiopia is because of the hydro dam that has been feeding the water that will deny Egypt the water to survive. It is there. Africa has been watching. AU has been watching. Nobody has decisively come out to stand firm and tell the world that enough is enough. We are going on. We are calling reservists. Come. Okay, they are also going to call their friends. Who knows? It is up to the countries surrounding Ethiopia to now prepare. Either they also declare state of emergency, which could be the thing coming in the near future, in very near future, Miriam, and I speak very near future. Because from the intelligence that is gathered from the International Institute of Strategic Studies, the rebels are about to enter the capital city. Where will you take the refugees? Kenya must prepare their parliament. President Uhuru Kenyatta should move to parliament, prepare its parliament to say we might receive a problem. Don't wait for the problem to knock on the door, Miriam. I submit.
Very well, Doc. Thank you so much. And indeed, last week, while we were looking at this matter, after the government of Kenya issued that alert on our borders, actually the government of Kenya is preparing for any eventuality that we might have to offer safe refuge to people fleeing from that conflict there in Ethiopia. So perhaps Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, Samuel Tawish, I don't know what kind of options he has. If he chooses to continue with this war, there's a high possibility this rebel rebels will really cause a lot of disruption in Addis Ababa and even maybe take over. Or he can decide to negotiate for a settlement and hear these rebels out. But that also could make him look weak because he's really been trying to put up a very tough front. So what are some of the choices right now, and what will be the right move for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to make at this point?
Indeed, Miriam, as you rightly alluded to, it's a very delicate balancing act for Prime Minister Abiy. But I think what is important and what should be his priority is to safeguard the lives and safety of the people of Ethiopia. That should be the foremost priority for him, regardless of what kind of sacrifices he will have to make, as long as those sacrifices goes a long way in ensuring that we are going to arrest the deteriorating situation in Ethiopia today, that there's not going to be further infighting amongst the people of Ethiopia, and there's not going to be further loss of property and human life and people being displaced, becoming IDPs in their very own country. I think those are the factors that will dictate or must dictate the decision that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed should be making henceforth in as regards to this crisis, because there could be ambition, there could be matters to do with the self-interest, but there's no interest that supersedes that of the people that you govern. You cannot govern the soil, you cannot govern the land, you need the people to govern them. And if you can allow people really to be killed the way we are seeing, if you can allow people really to be living in anxiety, continuous anxiety because of the fear of their lives, Miriam, I do not think that really this is the kind of leadership that we need today in the continent of Africa. And it's very encouraging that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda is summoning all the leaders from the region to see into it what can be done at the earliest opportune time possible, so that maybe through the intervention that the East Africa region and by and large the African continent can have in Ethiopia, we could as well arrest this situation from going to worse from where it is today. But it's very unfortunate. It's a devastating situation. People today do not have even food. The young children, women and girls actually living in dire need of course, humanitarian assistance. But you see, the kind of situation that we are experiencing in Ethiopia today cannot even allow that to happen. So I still summon Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed really to come back to his sense, really to do a self retrospect of himself and see what is in the best interest of the people of Ethiopia. He cannot call the reservist, or if I got you right, to come back and maybe take arms. He cannot direct the ordinary civilians to come and join the war against its own people. It is like Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is acting and behaving as though they are dealing with an external enemy. These are grievances and issues being raised within his own country. He cannot treat a part of a country as an enemy. He has to sit down with these people. He has to sit down with the leadership and find a way forward. After all, there are grievances. And if those grievances can be addressed, I can tell you for sure that we will find an amicable solution and the people of Ethiopia can go back to their normal lives. So this is a very big challenge to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And he should understand that as a people of Africa, we really update and we are waiting to see what kind of statesmanship is going to come out of the decisions that he's going to make. Mm-hmm. I submit, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. And as we mentioned there earlier, rebels are closing in on the capital, Addis Ababa there, and indeed some also wish the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is calling on the retired army, anybody who has worked, who has any kind of experience with the military, to rejoin back. And the residents in Addis Ababa are being urged to use whatever weapon they can to defend the capital there. So things are not looking very nice there in Ethiopia. So the collapse of Ethiopia, as if nothing is done, this is imminent. What will that mean to this region, Javan Karanja?
Thank you very much, Miriam, and good afternoon to our viewers and Dr. David Matsanga.
It's good morning.
Darwish and
it's 11:36. Yes,
it's almost to afternoon.
Almost is not. Oh, go ahead.
But whether it's afternoon or evening, depending on where they are watching from, I big them up. But on the point and the discussion that you're having today, Miriam, is so unfortunate when we see leaders in Africa who are not determined to ensure that peace prevails and the people of Ethiopia, the Prime Minister, is not concerned to see that we have peace prevail in the region. And what this means to Kenya is that we will suffer, because Miriam had said that a threat to security, to our security anywhere is a threat to security everywhere in the region. Therefore, I will not sit plenty as a country thinking that when things go bad in Ethiopia that we will be spared. No, we'll have big numbers of refugees coming to our country. And that means they will come and strain the resources that we have. That means they will come and start scrabbling for the small resources that we have in the country. Therefore, the people who will feel the pinch of this influx of refugees in the country is us Kenyans, is the government of Kenya, because we'll have to go a step higher to ensure that we contain them and we keep them safe. Number two, these conflicts, they give a ground, a good breeding ground for other outfits, for other terrorist activities. Therefore, we might see escalating cases of terrorist attacks, Al-Shabaab getting away to escape and maybe causing havoc in the region. Therefore, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of dangers that comes when we have that kind of a crisis anywhere in our neighboring countries. Therefore, I think the head of states, the AU, it is the time that we need to wake them up. It's the time we need to tell them time is ripe. They need to act. They need to see. They need to show the world that really they can do something to ensure that they contain these crises, these insecurity, insurgents that we have in Ethiopia. Therefore, I think we can do something need to be done under the AU and other agencies that are there to ensure that we have peace in the region. They need to wake up and stamp the authority and ensure that we have a country, we have a region to protect, we have a people to protect, and it's also upon the leaders in Ethiopia to give dialogue a chance. They need to sit down, they need to come up and ensure that whether they have their side, their issues, their personal issues, they need to put their personal issues beyond the interest of the bigger people, and that is the residents and citizens of Ethiopia. They need to give dialogue a chance and ensure that they bring peace, because this peace will come from the leaders. Because if these leaders are not willing to have peace, it will not be found. But if the leaders are willing, if there is political goodwill, if they have the bigger picture of their country, then they should settle this issue amicably and ensure that they have a country to protect. We don't want to see Ethiopia having housing the headquarters of AU and other big agencies in the region going down in like Somalia. No, we don't want to take that route.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you've brought in the issue of Al-Shabaab, and we know that the Ethiopian army and the Ethiopian forces are really very crucial when it comes to the fight against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, and they've for a long time helped in containing the Islamist Al-Shabaab militia and has offered crucial backing for the fragile government of Somalia together with the rest of the forces from AMISOM. So a failed state in Ethiopia could very well mean that things might get worse, not just in Ethiopia itself, but also in Somalia. So are we staring at a bigger security issue in this region, Sharon?
And thank you very much, Miriam. And it's quite unfortunate. There was so much optimism that is slowly beginning to dissipate, even after, Dr. Abiy Ahmed was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for having ended the 20-year military, stalemate between, at the border of Eritrea and, Ethiopia. So, in a nutshell, by using arms, there's no one who is actually going to have their way. There's a common Swahili saying that says, ndovu wawili wakipigana nyasi ndo humia. And in this case, you realize that it is the Ethiopians who are actually going to lose But when I look at Ethiopia, I realize it's quite a very vital country. At one point, it has actually served as a case study, particularly in economic development. When you talk about the SGR, actually, I remember when we were actually constructing the SGR, it was one of the case study. Look at the Ethiopian airline, which is actually one of the most safest and an very economical, looking at the Horn of Africa. When I think I was doing an analysis of Kenya being the sixth largest economy in Africa, followed by Ethiopia. So you can imagine how much talking about a disruption of peace and stability is actually going to cause havoc in this country. And then I think going forward, America needs to also be very consistent in actually aiding Ethiopia, not even actually by threatening them to actually get them out of AGOA. Which is a trade act that enables them to actually access a tariff in the US market. So at the end of the day, I think heads need to roll. We need to see an intervention in actually a very meaningful way where we can have shuttle diplomacy from all the East African regions. Otherwise, we will have an influx of refugees. My fellow panelists have talked about it, and I don't think us even talking about Kenya, we have that much resources to actually accommodate them. So it's high time we see, African leaders actually actively engaging, because the best way to actually stop a war is not to start a war. So if we can have, a hammering of a new social contract in Ethiopia, and also, actively engaging the people of Ethiopians, I think this is actually going to go a long way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And Doc, you brought out the issue of Eritrea, who obviously is a very big player when it comes to the chaos we are seeing in Ethiopia today. And Amnesty International released a report a couple of days ago that says that Eritrean soldiers were involved in literally slaughtering hundreds of unarmed Tigrayan civilians there in Tigray. And that is because there's been an existing bad blood between the TPLF and Eritrea, because Eritrea feels it suffered so much, and it still seems to be nursing a sense of betrayal and hurt over the years. TPLF was in power, and that led to Eritrea going on and forming its own state. So a lot of historical grievances there that has not been solved even after that handshake between Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Eritrea. Eritrea still harbors a lot of hate and acrimony towards the TPLF, and I think vice versa. So how can we hold Eritrea accountable for its part in this conflict?
Miriam, thank you very much for that question. If you read the United Nations Human Rights Report of 156 pages, which I've read in and out, yesterday on Africa Showdown, I told you 3 presidents or 2 presidents and 1 prime minister are going to be indicted by the United Nations Security Council, because they are outside the mandate of International Criminal Court and other agencies. The report is very, very, very bad, a grim reading, very greasy. You can't read it up to the end. It is a very painful report. And as you say, Amnesty International has come up following the same. Eritrean troops entered, slaughtered, massacred, genocide. It was total genocide. And I told you very well, I've written on my Facebook. Anybody who wants to read, go to my Facebook yesterday. I told you the relationship. We are 4 people. Dr. Tedros will not say, when he comes to Nairobi and he goes to any hotel, he will not say he doesn't know that man. He will say that is Matsanga. The only thing that I have improved on, or which has damaged me, is the weight I put on the body. But Miriam, I'm telling you, Dr. Tedros Isaias Afwerki, the late Zenawi, Dr. Matsanga, Dr. Nambago, we were working in the same office in Ibare and Islington, near that club called Arsenal Stadium Emirates. We used to go down for the lunch, late lunch. Saturdays we used to meet, because all of the groups we are doing what we call community relief for resettling of refugees. I was in charge of resettling Ugandan refugees who had run away from the Okero government, Museveni government, that included most of us, and Obote government. We formed community relief agencies. The conflict between Zenawi and Afwerki, Isaias Afwerki, is what made the Eritreans to enter TPLF and slaughter people. Are you getting me, Miriam? So that on your other broadcasts, it is true. That thing made Eritrea to cut off. It wanted, even when they were being given money, we were there. I don't want to bring more of serious secrets, but there were governments that were giving them arms, money. They used to quarrel over money. I had several times I had to come in. We, the Uganda Community Relief Association, had to come in and say, okay, we shall be the ones to use the formula to divide this money. Because Isaias Afwerki never wanted Zenawi to be the chairman. But because Zenawi was ahead, was older, and a very aggressive and a very intelligent man, very intelligent. Isaias is intelligent, but not as intelligent as the late Zenawi. Dr. Tedros was a student in Nottingham University. He used to come part-time to sit on the committee in the offices with us. The clash between the two communities started right in London. It has never ended. It ended up by Eritrean president ordering troops to enter, combined with Somalia, to go and slaughter Tigrayans, because he hates the Zanawis. You hear that? You hear that? And that one cannot let him be a leader. He is going to be indicted. He will also be on the run list, include several of those others who are on the run list. The UN warned everybody to pull out the dead bodies of Somalis that were found in Mekele. In Mekele. What were they doing there? Miriam, didn't you report here that over 300 bodies of Somali nationals were found in Mekele? What were they doing there? Do you know that this could ignite the Ogaden War? The Ogaden War could erupt anytime now, isn't it? You know that? Anytime. So we are in a very precarious situation, a Yugoslavia of Africa breaking to pieces. They could end up Ogaden or Kurdish. The Kurds. You see the Kurds cut across. They are in Russia, they are in Turkey, they are in Greece, they are in Iraq, they are in Syria. They are, have you seen the Kurdish state, Kurdistan state of Abdullah Öcalan, the leader of Kurdistan, who was extradited by Moi from Nairobi, picked and taken on a plane, landed. Nobody has ever forgotten that. You younger people might not have known, but there you are. The history is there. Read the books of Abdullah Öcalan, taken by the Turkish, the leader of the Kurdistan party, which was fighting for independence of the Kurdistan state. Nobody in Europe has ever accepted to give the Kurds autonomy. If you go deeper in the history of Europe, Turkey does not want to give the Kurds autonomy. Russia does not. There are Kurds in Russia. Syria. Why do you think the Americans went to Syria? Because they saw the Kurds for the first time going to form a state. Look at all this. Iraq, the entire northern part of Iraq is Kurd, the Kurdistans, Kurds. It's a huge, huge problem. Ethiopia presents that style of politics that we have in this region. And if we don't handle the situation properly, Miriam, I'm sorry, we might end up crying like in Yugoslavia, where you have Bosnia, Serbians, Albanians, Herzegovina, all these states mushrooming, coming out, small states, breaking into small states that are more vulnerable, that are creating the problem of Ukraine. What does Ukraine export on the drugs and the poison? You tell me. Ukrainian poison is flowing across Africa, the whole continent. We have a problem. And that's the problem. We in Pan-African Forum and the Punchline Africa TV Medium, you have been eloquently saying it yourselves, and yourself on your diaspora dispatches, you have been telling the people the truth. It is time. If they don't want to unite, sit down on a table to resolve this conflict, it will spill over to Kenya. And it is high time, and now let me predict, it's high time Kenya sat down, called its parliament, and talked about safeguarding their integrity. Because the borders of Kenya, apart from the Uganda border, the rest are porous, and the rest are fragile. The Somali border is fragile. The South Sudan border is fragile. The Ethiopian border is closed, but still fragile. The Tanzanian border is very safe. So time has come for Kenya to rethink whether we are going to prepare ourselves for the influx of Ethiopian refugees, whom we always capture in Isiolo on their way to South Africa or on their way in here. Haven't we been capturing very many from Moyale? If there were very many coming into Kenya without the war, how many will come? Million. How many? Millions. So we better prepare for a humanitarian catastrophe that will linger. Already Egypt, Sudan are suffering the brunt of humanitarian catastrophe. Thank you.
All right, Doc, thank you so much. And just to add on what you just said there, perhaps some information that could be useful for our viewers. Remember, Eritrea was suspended from IGAD in 2007, or rather it moved out of IGAD by itself, I think, after it was protesting against Ethiopia's army entering into Somalia. And of course, later on in 2011, there was a report by a United Nations monitoring group on Somalia that was obtained that accused Eritrea of plotting to attack an African Union summit in Ethiopia. January in 2011, and of bankrolling rebels in Somalia through its embassy here in Kenya. And the UN slapped an arms embargo on Eritrea, as well as travel ban and an asset freeze on Eritrean political and military leaders who it says are violating an arms embargo in Somalia. So Eritrea, I think it's a country to watch, and it could very well be contributing largely with the instability we see in this region if you were to go by this report. Thank you so much for your time at this.
I think, Miriam, before you close, I want to add, it was too hasty for the world to remove Eritrea from the terrorist list. Now, the world is paying the price of hasty resolutions. You remember everybody was saying, clapping, saying, yeah, but you removed two. It was too quick for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to shake hands with Eritrea, and it was too quick for George Soros to arrange for Nobel Prize, which Sharon talked about. They rushed it. You saw the way they rushed that Nobel Prize. Quickly. Eh? They didn't even go through the normal. They said let him share it with somebody. Where has he worked? He's a younger man born in 1978. Where has he worked? Where has he worked? Nowhere. He came to power. Even the actions of calling these troops, you have seen the way he wears a uniform, saying we are going to box them. How do you are playing with a very big situation there? You can't. There's a letter that has circulated from AU right now. I don't know whether you have seen it. It says it emanated from certain countries saying the headquarters of African Union should be removed because it is about to be under siege. So the African Union Commission has just written a letter right now to say, no, that letter is fake. We have not written any letter to remove the headquarters from Addis Ababa. That is the panic you can see. You see the panic, Miriam? That is what I've been talking about. And I believe me or not, God will vindicate me. I'm vindicated today. I said it was too early for the man to shake the hand of the terrorist, the butcher of Asmara. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dr. David Matsanga, Samuel Tawish, Jevan Karanja, and Sharon Gitonga. We'll see you later here with another show. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.